Jacque Jones spent 10 years playing in the major leagues, but he was able to prove himself to the world well before that. He was drafted by the Minnesota Twins out of USC in 1996. That same year, he represented Team USA in the Summer Olympics in Atlanta. So just how good was he on an international stage? Well, how's a .395 average with 5 homers and 13 runs batted in? Jones made his major league debut on June 9, 1999 at the Metrodome and became a pillar in the outfield, helping lead the Twins to 3 straight division championships from 2002 to 2004. After 7 seasons in Minneapolis, Jones traded artificial turf for ivy, signing with the Chicago Cubs and becoming a fixture at Wrigley Field for 2 years. He batted .285 over that span and even tied a career high with 27 home runs in 2006. Jones was traded away after the 2007 season and split time between the Detroit Tigers and Florida Marlins in 2008. He played just a fraction of a season that year, with his final major league game coming on June 10th. These days, Jones is giving back to the community, helping underprivileged kids live happier lives through his All Hands on Deck Foundation. And today, he generously gave some of his time to me to talk about his journey here on Touching Base. You guys were a lot of fun to watch in those early 2000s, on those early 2000s Twins teams when I was in high school. But I want to go back to the beginning. I want to know how you came to love the game of baseball.
Just since I was young, I used to hang out with my uncle and his friends, and they were playing fast pitch softball and stuff like that. So I used to hang out with those guys as like a 5 or 6 year old and get on the field with them and warm up when they warmed up. And so I just from there it just grew.
Yeah. So in 1993, you get drafted, but you opt to wait until 1996. What was the reason for the wait?
Uh, One because I know I wasn't ready. Then and being drafted in the 33rd round, I would have pretty much been a number um at that time. And then I had school waiting for me. And I mean, going to USC and I didn't know anything about the program that they had there. And once I got there, seeing all the guys who came through like Fred Lynn and Mark McGuire, Randy Johnson, Dave Kingman, uh, Brett Boone, guys like that. Um, Aaron was my teammate. Jeff Jenkins was my teammate. So, um, I mean, I would have missed out on that experience, and the experience of playing at the time was the equivalent of AA baseball
Right.
in college in the Pac-6. So, um, if they would have matched my scholarship, which I probably would have signed, but I'm glad they didn't, and so I got to have that experience as well.
Yeah, and it worked out for the better. I mean, the rest is
Oh yeah,
history.
big
And in
time.
1996, the year you elect to sign, you're
Yeah,
also part of the Olympics team for your Team USA. And what was great about that was right here in the U.S. You got to play your games in Atlanta. I believe in the last year of existence for Atlanta Fulton County Stadium.
yeah.
How did you get selected for that team, and what was that experience like?
So, uh, my story is kind of unique, where everything kind of fell in place, not planned, just by happenstance. My One of my high school coaches was, I don't know, maybe a booster or something that had some ties to SC, and he got the guys to come out and watch me play. Um, they had, I guess, the last minute sign, so they had some money freed up. So I mean, it's really unheard of to get a full ride scholarship in baseball because there's so few. So it ended up happening. I went in as a two-way player, pitcher, outfielder, first baseman, slash slash. Um, Went through that first year. We went to the regional in Louisiana State, and we were playing LSU. I hit 3 homers in one game against LSU. Skip Bertman was the manager there, who happened to down the line be the manager of the USA team, and so I think that had a little bit to do with it. And so again, just in the right place at the right time, and then performing and then leveraging it into something else.
Yeah.
And so that's how that happened.
Yeah, right place, right time is usually the best way things work out.
Yeah.
So in 1999, 3 years later, you get the call to the big leagues. Can you take me through that day, what that day was like? And I don't know if you expected to get the call, but can
Mm,
you kind of walk me through the day that
yeah,
you
for
knew you were
sure,
going to
for
go to the
sure.
big leagues?
So again, we were in Oklahoma City, and I had just really started hitting. So I mean, I didn't make the team out of spring training. I was disappointed like anyone else would be. That was the first time that I ever really had been cut from something. um, so a little bit of attitude or whatever, and wanted to get off to a fast start and get back to with all my friends. Because at the time, I think there were 16 or 17 guys that they took with them as rookies at that time. Um, so right about the time I was getting going, one of my really good friends and still a good friend to today, Matt Lawton, got hit in the eye. We're watching the game on TV. Um, and Phil Roof had came into our room. We were playing cards and we were at the hotel. And so he was like, hey, you guys got to shut this down at midnight. So I'm going to do a room check. And we're like, okay, whatever, dude. We're at the hotel. Like, chill out. Right. So we all watched Matt get hit in the eye. And I didn't really think, I mean, yeah, I knew it was serious, but I didn't really think like, oh, yeah, they're going to call me up because he got hit in the eye. We knew someone was going to be moved. We just didn't
Right.
know who. And so he came back again at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and we had a couple run-ins, he and I, that year in AAA. And so he points to me and he says, "Hey, I want to talk to you in the hallway." And I'm like, "Dude, like, out of all the people in the room, like you're pointing me out, you know what I mean?" And so he went in the hallway and we talked, and he's just like, "Hey, you guys, I thought I told you guys to knock this game off at midnight." And I'm like, "Dude, we're not out, we're not doing anything. We're all at the hotel, like we're like we're playing cards." And so he says, "Hey, you're going to the big leagues." I believe it was like June 9th, something like that. We are playing the Reds. So I flew out of Oklahoma City into Minnesota. Matt, who was still nursing his eye at the time, took me into his home, said I could stay there. No, he didn't make me pay any rent or anything like that. And so I ended up going 0 for 4 that night. And I think I got my first hit against Milwaukee at their old county stadium
Yeah.
in front of my ex teammate Jeff Jenkins, and so like it's just weird how stuff happened for me.
Yeah, and I love hearing stories of how coaches tell players they're going to get called up. They make it like they're in trouble at first, and then it ends
Right,
up being the best news
right,
ever. I,
right,
I love that.
right, right.
Um, so the Twins of the early 2000s, I actually spoke to one of your teammates, Doug Minkiewicz, who had a lot of nice things to say about you, by the way. But those early 2000s Twins teams, like I said, they were a lot of fun to watch. What was it like to be a part of that team, the camaraderie, and what do you think it was that made you guys so good at the time?
So it was a number of reasons why we started in pretty much A ball together, a big group of us, and so I think Minnesota at the time was one of the first organizations to just take a nucleus of guys and
Yeah,
let them stay together and move them up every year, level by level. And at that time, in their organization, you pretty much had to play each level and dominated each level 1 year before they moved you up.
right.
Um, and so we started out at A ball, and then we had David Ortiz on our team, and Doug was on the team, and Tori was a year before us. And then we started in Fort Myers, and then we went to New Britain, and then Tori stayed back, and then, so we all met up with him. David was there, and actually the year that I met David, he went from A ball to the big leagues, and I believe that was '97.
Right.
And so like we just all went up level by level, and then in '98 they took like 16 or 17 of the guys with them up north to Minneapolis. And so I finished out uh a half a season in Salt Lake, and then I got called to the big leagues and didn't look back.
Yeah, and so you guys had a lot
And
of time to get to know each other, basically. So
yeah,
that
and
helps.
yes, and to answer your question, I guess I kind of got off track. Was like we spent a lot of time together,
Yeah,
and so we knew each other, and we knew each other's tendencies, and we knew each other's moods, and when to leave each other alone, or when to needle each other, or when to pick each other up. And so like by the time we got to the big leagues, like we didn't necessarily need any coaching. We just needed to be, write the lineup out, tell us what we need to do, tell us where
you
we
had
need to
each other.
go, and we'll take care of the rest.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
it was no knock on TK or Guardy or Scotty or J Dub or Dick Such or Rick Anderson or anybody like that. It was just I mean, we came up through the system and knew what the system was all about, and it was. I mean,
And you
we
guys
knew.
had what you needed in each
Yes,
other. That's
yes,
great.
yeah.
How do you compare? And I asked this question to Doug as well. How do you compare the two managers, Tom Kelly and Ron Gardenhire? I mean, he told me his take. I wanted to get your take because those are the two most decorated managers in Twins history. But I
Mhm.
hear that they were very different. I want to hear your point of view about both.
TK was old school.
Yeah,
Uh, TK was a manager that you appreciated the further you got away from being managed by him,
right.
right? Because he demanded you be ready to play. He had sayings that he would say every day, and you're like, whatever, dude. But then you think about him, right? Be ready to play the first inning. Keep the ball in the middle of the field, catch the ball, like throw the ball, play catch. You know, hit with guys in scoring position. Have good at bats, stuff like that, right? You think it's just second nature. You think it's commonplace, but it really isn't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so he just expected a high concentration level. Again, he was old school. He didn't. I don't want to say he didn't care for the younger guys, but he loved veterans,
Yeah.
right? So we were he was kind of force fed us, and some of us was able to stick it out, and some of us weren't.
Right.
You know, um, Gardy was more of a in the beginning he was a player's manager, right? And then he got established, and then Gardy wanted to run things the way he wanted to run, which is again not a bad thing. But I don't think there was a lot of difference because Gardy was groomed by TK.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So he had a lot of TK's ways instilled in him, and he had his own ways, which I mean, they it worked out because he was successful as a manager there in Minneapolis.
Both very successful, both
Yeah,
legends in their own right in
yeah,
Minneapolis.
yeah.
Yeah. So I want to talk about now one of your teammates who was arguably the face of the 2000s Twins, and that was Torrey
Mhm,
Hunter, a guy you patrolled the outfield with.
mhm.
How much easier did he make your life knowing that you got to share an outfield with a
Dude,
19-year old Glover?
I only had to cover a small slice of the pie in the outfield, and he had everything else. So it was we, and in all seriousness, we all made each other's job easier
Yeah.
because at the time it was me, Law Dog, and Tori in the outfield, and um, Tori and I split time in center field to begin with, and then once he got established, I moved over to left. There was three center fielders in the outfield at the same time.
Yeah.
We could have all three arguably played center field. Um, Not to the level of Tori, but we could have all played center field. Um, but I mean, we really didn't have to cover much ground. So he made our job easier, and we made his job easier to where, I mean, if we could get there, yeah, we were there. But like he was a quarterback, so he usually called us off, which is fine by me, right?
Yeah.
Last balls I have to handle, the better off I am. So um, yeah, it was great having him in the outfield, man. Just knowing that anything, most things were going to be caught that were not hit over the wall. And so there was a lot of pissed off hitters
Oh
when they
yeah.
came down against us because not very much touched the ground. I mean, and we had a rule that we always laughed about, right? Is if we get hits, the other team still gets no hits, right? And if we don't get hits, the other team really gets no hits. So like teams should have hoped that we got hits because we were more angry when we were in the outfield when we didn't get any hits. So we really made sure they didn't get any hits.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because a guy like Andrew Jones, who didn't get a lot of love on his first year on the ballot, you saw him. It looks like
Yeah,
he's going to get in the next year or two, and I
yeah.
almost hope the same for Torrey Hunter. I mean, on the surface, he's not a Willie Mays or a Mickey Mantle or a Ken Griffey. You go back and look at his stats; he was a strong player till the very end, and a great all around one at that. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does one day make the Hall of Fame. I would love to see it happen.
I mean, if Andrew gets in, then Torrey probably should get in because he's not. They're right in the
He's
same.
not much far further behind
Right.
him.
He was a guy that, like, for a while he was dynamic, right? But he was consistent. Once he got in his groove and learned how to do what he did, he was consistent. One thing that never changed about Torrey was his demeanor and his attitude, right? He was
Yeah.
always upbeat. He was always, positive and like
Had the kilowatt smile
oh
all the
my
time.
God, it was I couldn't do. I wish I could, do what he did as far as like mentally, but um he was just consistent, man. And the next thing you knew, he had almost 400 home runs, and he had 18 years in, and he was up to like I believe 270 or something like that.
Yeah.
With a career hitter, he hit 300 a couple times. Like it was just
2,500 hits almost. Yeah,
Right, right. So I mean, some of the guys that are in the Hall of Fame have those same kind of numbers. So
exactly right. That's why I'm hoping good things for him in the years to
right,
come.
right.
Well, after 2006, I believe, or ahead of the 2006 season, I should say, you signed with the Cubs. Now you weren't
Yeah.
traded; you actually signed with them. So I wanted to know: was there a reason you chose to leave them to leave the Twins to go to the Cubs, or what was the
Well,
reason behind
I was
changing?
I was going to keep having to sign 1 year deals in Minnesota,
Right.
and I felt like, I mean, I played well enough to not have to play on a 1 year deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it was really between Minnesota. I mean, I'm sorry, Chicago and Kansas City.
Yep.
And Kansas City was a place that I enjoyed hitting in when I played there against them.
Yep.
But I at the time I mean, I'm leaving one organization that we were winning, and the Cubs had the potential to win, and the allure of being on one of the first teams to win in Chicago was greater than that of trying to win in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So that was, the biggest factor into why I went over to Chicago.
Yeah. And that's a good reason. And the history there. I mean, Wrigley Field is one of the most beautiful stadiums I've ever been to, or probably the most beautiful stadium I've been to.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's packed every day.
Yeah,
It's packed every day. So I mean, to play in front of a large crowd, and I mean they travel well. So even on the road, it was,
yeah,
it was half Cubs fans and half of whoever we were playing against.
yeah. You have that opportunity. You don't want to pass it up. I mean,
Yeah, for
between
sure,
them and the Royals, forget it. It's easily
for
the
sure,
Cubs.
for sure.
So in your last season, you go to the Tigers, you go to the Marlins. You're kind. You play. You don't have much playing time in 2008. I think after 2008, you tried to make a couple of comebacks. You're only 33 years old at the time.
Yeah,
Did you battle injuries at that point?
no, I was perfectly healthy.
Yeah,
And that like I when people ask me like what happened, I'm like, I don't know what happened, dude. I hit 285, uh, 2 seasons, 2 full seasons prior to that.
yeah.
I only played for like 2 months and then I was done. So like if my skills eroded between 2007 and 2008, like you know
It
what I'm
just
saying?
happens.
Right. I was still a good player at the time,
Yeah,
but I just wasn't going to beg anyone to play. I wasn't going to politic to play.
right,
That's
right.
just not in me. So I went back to Minnesota and played AAA for a year, and I think I hit close to 300 again in AAA. So I mean, I wasn't done. And guys usually have nowadays, especially have a resurgence. After a
Yeah,
couple of down years. Not I wasn't even allowed to have a down year. I just had
yeah.
a
It
down
just
couple
ends.
months.
But
You know what
it
I mean?
happens, and you had a
Yeah.
great career
Oh
before
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. Well, you've been out of the game for about 10, 15 years now. You look young enough to still be playing, I have to say. But life since baseball, you've been involved in a lot of charity work, from what I've read.
Yeah.
And how did that come? First of all, I love to hear that players give back like that. But what kind of charity work are you involved in?
So I started a foundation. It's called All Hands on Deck, which it, it just stemmed from I always wanted to be involved in my neighborhood
Yeah,
and give um, kids a chance to succeed not only in sports but in education, right? And so like I raised money to go back into like provide equipment or provide like money for kids to go to camps or you know uh, do things at prom. Um, we have a turkey drive. I did a back to school backpack giveaway a couple times,
right.
and so it's just stuff like that, man. It's just like
Opportunities they wouldn't otherwise have.
little things that they don't have that other kids have, and they look at and be like, man, if I wish I had this, or I wish I could do that. And so that's where I step in and kind of like check the pulse and see who needs what. Like I've sponsored a couple football teams as far as like equipment and stuff like that. And so like anytime I could do that, man, I enjoy doing that. And so I hop on it any chance I get.
I love to hear it, Jock. Good on you, man. So
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about today's game before I get into like all the rule changes. I always ask about the rule changes because they're so crazy now. But I want to get your take on what you think of the new look of the Minnesota Twins this year. Do you like the new uniforms?
Uh I you know
You could
what?
take it or leave it.
I could take it or leave it.
Yeah,
I'm always going to be partial to the pinstripes
yeah,
because that's what we wore and it looked nice and it just It's kind of like the Yankees, man. The Yankees don't change at
They
all.
kept it classy.
Right?
Yeah,
It's
over
just
time.
a classy look, and who cares what the rest of the league is doing?
Yeah, if it ain't broke, why try to
Right,
fix it? That's
right,
what I say. And
right.
that's a good segue into what we're going to talk about because if it ain't broke, they're trying to fix it with all these new rule changes.
Yeah.
A lot of guys I talk to don't like them. Some of them do like some of the rules. But are there any ones that irk you, especially the ones in 2023, the pitch clock? I mean, what's your
I
take
I,
on them?
I was kind of uh I was on the fence about the pitch clock until I saw it in action. Um, I think at some point though they're gonna have to tweak it
Yeah,
because like you can have um big games decided by someone not getting a pitch off in 20 seconds.
yeah, and that's what everybody says. Yep,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
But the bigger bases I'm fine with as well. It may be less injuries.
yeah.
The bang bang plays
Yeah, I
maybe
mean the
less.
bigger bases, it doesn't compromise the gameplay itself, but the
No,
pitch clock
no,
does,
no.
and
It
that's where
kind
they
of
have to
prevents,
kind of,
to me, it kind of prevents injuries.
yeah,
Um, and you know, I I really like the reliever rule where you have to face three batters. I do like that. I like
yeah,
that one just because like coming in and changing a pitcher and then coming in and changing another pitcher and throw 10 more pitches and 3 more minutes
yeah.
and
Nobody
all
wants
that.
to see that
Yeah,
many
I
commercials at home.
don't
I get
that.
that.
So I really like that one. But otherwise, I mean the game, I guess it is what it is, but it's not.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but I mean, baseball is always going to be 90 feet, 60 feet, and 6 inches,
yeah,
and whatever the dimensions are in the outfield, that's not going to change.
yeah. Do you still follow the game a lot? Do you still have any involvement
Uh,
in MLB? I mean, I know you're still friends with some of the guys, but what's your involvement in the game now?
yeah, not. I'm actually coaching in this major league draft league right now, which has
Oh,
been
cool.
fun. With the college kids and a couple high school kids. So it's been fun, but the way that these kids are being taught hitting is just like it's crazy.
Yeah, hula hoops and
Yeah, yeah. It's
yeah,
almost like they're okay with like, and I struck out about 100 times a year, right? And it was embarrassing to strike out that many times,
yeah,
right? But these kids don't care if they strike out anymore.
yeah,
They
yeah.
don't
It's not
care.
about contact. It's
No,
about
they'll go 4 at bats just to hit one homer,
yeah,
right? And then they'll
yeah,
go another 4 weeks without hitting another one. And then it's just like, dude, like it would be more fun and less stressful if you get hits in between all that other
oh
stuff.
yeah,
That part a lot of these guys don't grasp.
yeah. There's not much skill to going 1 for 4 with
No. And
a
and
four
the
hittable.
and
Yeah,
the other thing, I forgot who I was talking about. I was talking to about is so everyone goes through the season like they go through, right? The Yankees are usually built for a regular season. The Dodgers are built for a regular season.
right.
The Braves are built for a regular season, and they ended up winning the World Series. Like these teams that hit got 4 or 5 or 6 guys with 20, 25 homers.
Yeah,
You get to the playoffs, and now everyone wants to bunt or move guys over or play the game the way it's supposed to be played. Why
yeah,
not start the whole season out that way so that
yeah.
when you get there, it's second nature to you and the
Exactly.
rest of the team to play the game the way it's supposed to be played? And usually the teams that can play small ball, like the Astros,
Yeah.
they finally broke through last year. The Nationals, the year before that, they broke through and won.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like it's okay to move a guy over. It's okay to shorten up and score a guy from third. It's okay to do those things
Yeah.
to help you win baseball games. And why wait to the end of the season to have put guys in positions that they weren't in during the regular season,
Yeah.
right? And then want them to be successful. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. There's no strategy or intellect anymore. Now, I forget
No.
who said this. I don't know if it was Doug Mankiewicz or Kip Gross. Somebody said it was glorified softball, and that's essentially what it is. People are just swinging for the fences now. At least
Yeah,
that's how they're
yeah,
taught.
yeah. These guys are throwing it as hard as they can throw it, and these guys are swinging as hard as they can
Yeah.
swing. And the pitchers win more times than not now, and then when the hitters win, they celebrate like it's a 7 game in the World Series.
I guess some of the newer fans like that.
Yeah.
All right, last question. Who do you think is going to win the World Series this year? Who do you think is going to go far?
Uh, there's not one team right now that stands out. I mean, it's obvious the Braves are rolling,
Yeah.
right?
I'm
Um,
starting to wonder if they're going to tie their record of 14 straight division wins. They would be
yeah,
at six this year.
and that's fine. But to me, the teams that usually and the Astros went wire to wire last year, which is that doesn't happen very often.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but to me, it's going to be a it's a dark horse, a team that's going to sneak in as a wild card. I think that'll win the whole thing.
And that would make it more interesting. I would like to
Yeah,
see somebody unexpected win. I mean, that's what makes it more fun anyway. But we'll see what happens. Time will tell, my friend.
yeah,
Yeah, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this. You were a
yeah,
great
man.
ball player. You're a better human, man. Thanks so much. I'm so happy to hear about the charity work, and try to brave the heat as well as you can this
Oh
weekend.
man, I'm drinking as much water as I
That's what
can.
I'm doing now. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's in the Northeast. Feels like it could be Miami.
It was
So
105 here yesterday. It's ridiculous.
yeah, stay inside, do what you got to do,
Yeah, man.
and you be good, man. We'll stay in touch, and you'll be the first to know when this is ready to roll. All right, take
Okay.
care, man.
All right, Mike. See ya.
Thanks, Jacque. Take care, buddy.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.